Hi, my name is Misha Calvert, and this is Film on Tape, an audio library of everything that I have learned as a filmmaker. I really hope that this is helpful to you in some way. And if it is, feel free to check out my website, mishacalvert.com. You can see my writing and directing there, and you can also sign up for very occasional emails that I send. All right, on to the show. Today, I'm going to talk about how to go from theater training as an actor to on-camera work and what that transition looks like. I've taught and coached many actors who've been trained theatrically, whether it's conservatory or a BFA program, MFA program, or they just grew up doing theater and ostensibly they want to open their range up to be able to work on camera as well. So after working with hundreds of people in that category of theater trained, camera aspiring, I have a lot to say, but it's also not as complicated as some people think it's going to be. So I'm going to lay out a few things that are really critical as you transition from theater to on camera, and I hope it's helpful. The first point that I want to make is that most actor training is not good. Now, I'm saying all this as someone who has been acting for 30 plus years, and I've trained with some of the greats. My teachers were on faculty at Juilliard, Yale, NYU, and Columbia, and Royal Shakespeare Company. So they've coached Broadway stars, they've coached Hollywood A-list. Now, I've also trained with some of the not greats, because when you're first starting out, you have no idea how to discern the masters from the hacks. You're rolling the dice every time you sign up for a class. And some of the classes were not great. Some of the teachers were offensive, and I just didn't know any better. So I think it's a good idea to try and find the ones who have a very established reputation. This goes, by the way, on up the chain to some of the most esteemed acting programs in the country. Now, I have a whole other episode about whether to go to acting school or not. I think if you want to do theatrical work, it's very helpful. If you want to do on-camera work, not so helpful. However, some of these programs still have like a couple of on-camera classes or some form of on-camera training, which from what I see, it is not good. So I just want to caution you that a beginner mind is really, really important when migrating over to on-camera acting. Because a lot of the things that you've learned may be unproductive, and they may even go against your own instincts for on-camera acting. So for on-camera, really come back to your instincts of how would I respond in this scene, in this moment? Because honestly, that is almost the entire thing. It's like 90% of it is just how would you authentically respond to the scene in that moment and then responding. So you may have had lots and lots and lots of actor training, but I just want you to feel comfortable setting that aside and really adopting a beginner mind, almost like you've never had an acting class before. And that will be a very helpful frame of mind to go into your on-camera acting classes with. The second point I'm going to make is that on-camera acting is not about theatrical acting, but smaller or less. Think about it like this. It's not so much that you're being asked to do less on camera, it's that theater asks you to do more than regular life. What theatrical acting does is, I'll give you this, it takes the truth and it asks you to magnify it. So your thoughts and your feelings, it asks you to have an authentic experience, or if you're Laurence Olivier, to convince us that you are having an authentic experience, and then to magnify that so that people very far away from you can still see it when they've paid their $150 for the back row at a Broadway house, right? So it's not that you are being asked to do less on camera, but for theatrical trained actors, there's an impulse to magnify what is already happening truthfully and simply to expand it. Thinking about it as doing less is not really the right formula because that is going to limit you. It becomes like a straitjacket. It's like saying, okay, well, don't move your arms, don't move your head, just move less. Like that limits the truth of your reactions in the moment. And you don't want to think of yourself as being limited. Like the truth genuinely doesn't have a limit on how it expresses. I've seen some auditions when I've been casting things that are the actor is very big, but they're truthfully big. It's not that they are magnifying or amplifying. It's not that they are nervous and that is giving them excess movement. It's the perfect amount of truthful size in the moment. So as you transition to on-camera acting, you just want to become aware of I mean, if you've had a lot of training, it will be probably an unconscious impulse to magnify. You won't even be aware of it. And if you are aware of it, you'll probably think, okay, well, that's my good training coming in. So you want to become aware of it and just start to create like a different racetrack. You got your theater racetrack when you're getting up to do that prep for a theatrical scene, theatrical audition, and then you have a different racetrack when you're doing just an on-camera scene that you know is meant for film or TV. And with that film and TV track, no need to magnify. You just want to start to sit in the truth. This is where the beginner mind is very useful again. Of what is what am I genuinely truthfully feeling with this scene? Like what would I be feeling? And then go from there. Another aspect of on-camera training that is really helpful and that it's really tough if you're coming from theater is that you need to become comfortable with being seen. And I mean really seen. The camera is a microscope. It is a lie detector. It's a truth seeker, and it's psychic. The camera will read your thoughts. It reads your thoughts and it reads your feelings, which can be terrifying. It also shows us what you look like, sometimes in great detail. You're going to need to become comfortable with that. It's like if you've ever been with a friend or a lover and you're having like a serious eye contact moment and it just gets a little too much and you have to look away. Well, imagine that person just doesn't look away. Like they just keep looking at you until you turn them off. That is the experience of being on camera. It can be very intense. It is very intimate. So just become aware of, as you're going through on camera classes and training with people, what is coming up for me when I feel so seen? What are my insecurities? What is this triggering for me? Oh, I didn't even realize I was self-conscious about my nose or my inability to feel joy. Like someone commented that in a class and now I'm realizing, oh God, that's right. I do have trouble with that. The beautiful thing is the more you become aware of where you are not physically or psychologically comfortable being seen, the more you can move into addressing those things and take action, because all of this is mutable. It's all changeable. You can go in and do work either physically or emotionally, mentally to work on this stuff. But the thing with camera that I don't find so much with theater is who you are is going to show up. You cannot hide. So you had better work on yourself because everyone's going to see what's really going on with you mentally, emotionally. That brings me to my next point. Maybe you'll hear other people talk about it in this way. Probably not. This is not controversial. It is simply fact. With acting, looks matter. How you look matters. Sometimes it is the only consideration when casting a part. But I don't want to have that seem like I'm saying that being conventionally hot is the goal. because that is also not the case. Some of the people who I know that work the most wouldn't call themselves conventionally hot. So I just want to be very clear that we're not talking about looking like Barbie or I don't know who's hot. James Bond? I don't know. We're talking about simply how you look is a major factor in what kinds of roles you're going to get, whether or not you book certain things. And I would say if there is a goal to how you look, I think we should look how we want to look. For a start, I think we have the freedom of expression in our hair, in our bodies, in our skin, in our clothes, how we wish to adorn our bodies. So, there's something to be said for, as an actor, you can look how you want to look. And for auditions, you can show up how you want to show up with your hair, makeup, clothes, etc. But I think from the casting side, the thing that really hits for me with somebody when I'm considering whether to hire somebody or not is, does the way they look on the outside match what I'm sensing on the inside? Because if I'm casting somebody, usually I'm casting them for kind of a certain slot in the film or show. They're fulfilling a certain character, and that character has a purpose, and they're there to contrast with other characters, and each character has their kind of flavor that they're bringing to the piece, right? So because of that, it's important that the actor that I cast have a synchronicity so that their inside energy matches their outside energy. Their appearance matches how I'm receiving them on a more emotional, mental level, because I don't want confusion of those two things in that role. That role has one kind of energy or one flavor, and I need somebody whose both inner and outer worlds are going to match up for that one flavor. I really need to use a different word than flavor, but I can't think of one right now. So if the inside and the outside are not matching, that creates kind of a confusion for the viewer because they then don't really know where to put that character. Like that character doesn't make as much sense. This is a little bit different if someone's a leading role or, they're carrying an entire film, and we love that complexity. But even then, we have archetypes in Hollywood for a reason. So I think if you want to open yourself up to the biggest range of roles possible, understand that looks do matter and that a lot of casting directors will factor that in as they're making their decisions, and that you want to think about matching who you are on the inside with how you look on the outside, and that will expedite their ability to understand where to cast you. I am so excited to tell you that I'm launching a brand new slate of classes that are incredibly helpful on my website. So some of the classes include on-camera acting technique, how to self-produce your own film, actor self-care, which is something that nobody talks about, and how to write a feature film in 10 days, which no one else has ever offered that class ever. I'm not sure very many people have ever even done that, but I'm going to teach you how I did it and how you can do it too. Go to clubvermilion.com and sign up for the pre-launch of these classes. No one else has access yet. And believe me when I say I poured my heart into these courses. I spent so many years talking to actors who so badly wanted to advance in the arts, but they didn't know how, they didn't have access, none of the teachers they had were good, or they couldn't afford it. The price was just out of reach. So these classes are specifically made to be packed full of information and very affordable. Stop by the brand new website. I am so excited about this website. I think it's really great, and pick out the classes there that really light you up. I can't wait to work with you. As you're transitioning from theatrical training to on-camera work, give yourself about a year of study. And by the way, I have done this entire process myself. I did it, mm, I started it maybe 15 years ago, maybe a little bit less, and realized that there wasn't nearly as much opportunity in theater for me as there was in film and TV. So when this was before I started making films, I was working as a quote, just an actor. And I found it very limiting to be in theater. I found it very fun and very magical, but very limiting. And so I wanted to open up my ability to work. So I started taking on camera classes, and it was about a year before I was able to appear at all normal on camera. I was so nervous, and I jumped right into casting director and agent manager workshops. That was a huge mistake. I was throwing away my money, and I do not recommend going in for any gatekeepers in the first year of your on camera training. It's very likely not going to go well. I mean, maybe it's a little bit different now for folks who are a bit younger who have been raised with the idea of having a camera in your hands at all times via your phone. But I think there is something still that we find unnatural about being on camera, that you're going to have to learn what it is like to have that. Remember, it's a lie detector, it's a truth seeker. To have that in your face and to be relaxed enough to just be normal. Because that's really the goal. You just want to show up and have the ability to react authentically and normally in the scene that you're given. So I would give yourself about a year of training. Once a week class is plenty. You can work with on-camera coaches as well, although I think you should mix it up. I don't think you should sink in with just one person for the entire year. I think you should hear from a couple of different on-camera teachers because they're all going to have something different that they want to say. On that note, when you're deciding who to study with, my recommendation is to find the people that everyone talks about. Now, there's a few diamonds in the rough. For instance, I don't really advertise a lot. And I'm told, one of the best on-camera teachers in New York. I don't really put ads out. I don't blast about it on networking sites. I have this podcast and I have my email list and I have my social media. But I'm not, I would say, totally well known for being a coach or a teacher. That's because I'm simultaneously cultivating a career as a filmmaker. So I have 2 full-time jobs. Vermilion is one, and my filmmaking is the other. And I work right now 40 hours on each job. I think there's some teachers that are very well known, and that is kind of their main thing at this point. I think it's good to study with them. I've also heard of teachers who they create kind of I'll say, a damaging environment. And you never want to train with anyone where you feel like it's a culty kind of idol worship scenario. I mean, there are some people who are very good at it, but there's other people who think that they're very good at it, and they're just kind of power hungry. So pick and choose carefully who you study with. Actors are very vulnerable. We're talking about people's dreams here. It's a business built on dreams, and acting programs are in large part capitalizing on those dreams to make money. And also teachers really want to feel good about themselves in the process. So it's just a little word of caution that when you're picking your on-camera teachers, find the ones that a lot of people really, really like and say really good things about, and that you also get a good feeling about. Because I've seen lots of acting teachers come and go over the past 20 years in New York. And you want to make sure you land in a happy, healthy environment that works for you. That being said, the main rule of on-camera acting that I think if you embrace this, honestly, you could forget everything else that I've said in the episode, which is the less acting, the better. The less acting you do, the better. And I don't mean the less opportunities you take or the less auditions you get. I mean, when you are on camera, try to move away from the idea of I'm acting now and move into the idea of I am being. I am being authentic. I am having a real response to what is going on in the scene. Now, this is drawing on Stanislavski method. It's drawing on some Meisner. It's pulling from some method, a number of different schools of acting study that I've worked with over my years as an actor. And this is what I find to be the most effective. Also, it's very simple. Hard to master, but very simple. And I think a lot of acting teachers like to overcomplicate it. You just want to show up for your scene, and you're not really acting. You're doing it for real for the first time in real time with your reader. Now, this is already going to knock out a lot of bad habits, such as having a reader who's not in the room, not ideal. Having a reader who's not even on video, they're just calling in on a phone, not ideal. Having your own voice be the voice that you're reading opposite from, super weird. Please don't do that. Not being off book, very bad habit. You always want to be off book for every audition, and until you're famous, and then they're casting you for for who you are, and you can get away with a lot more. But when you're first coming up, be off book for every audition. And what you want to do is have a genuine experience with the person you're reading opposite from. Now, yes, there are some more technical things that can come into play that, you could take it from an A+ to an A++. But if you're showing up and you're reacting authentically, and you have not, this is another big one for theater actors, you have not set the delivery in your prep. You have not pre-decided how it's going to come out. You have allowed for it to be organic on the day. You've done your who, what, where, when, why. You've done your given circumstances. So that's all figured out. Not that you can't add information to it. If the director says, oh, by the way, your character was married twice, you're like, oh, great, got it. And you factor that into the library of info that you've created about this character or figured out about them. But you do not have that influence your performance before you've even started to perform. You haven't decided, okay, this is a line where I need to be really angry on that. And I need to, this is where I get sad, or, allow it to be organic and allow surprises to come into the actual audition. So that without that pre-planning, it's much more likely to be something real actually happening instead of acting, which the camera can pick up so much easier than when you're on a stage. It can tell when you're faking it. So the less acting, the better. And the final note is, remember, this is a journey. Be really kind to yourself. Be really gentle. Keep that beginner mind. And treat it like you're learning something entirely new. There's a tendency, if you've had theatrical training, to expect yourself to be good at on-camera training immediately. No, do not do that. It is so damaging to expect perfection when you are just starting out. Give yourself a full year to fall and fail and be pretty bad at it, just like if you were learning a new sport or a new kind of dance. Let yourself have that really innocent, playful, curious, humble, open beginner mind. And the whole thing, please believe me, the whole thing is going to go a lot faster. You won't be kicking yourself, because kicking yourself takes time. It gets in the way of you actually just learning something new. Every time you kick yourself, it's 3 seconds that you could have been learning. So just kind of remove that urge to to get down on yourself about it, and simply become curious of how can I bring a real experience to the camera and become comfortable enough to let people see what's really going on with me. How can I let the viewer be intimate with me? It is simple, but it's not easy. I hope you enjoyed the show. I've loved talking about this, and I wish you luck on your journey. Thank you so much for listening to Film on Tape. I really hope that it was helpful to you in some way, and if so, please feel free to leave a 5-star review so that other people know this is a good podcast. If you want to check out my work as a writer-director, you can see it at www.mishacalvert.com, or drop me a DM. The best way to get a hold of me is on Instagram at Misha Calvert. See you next time.